Hey y'all, Paladin West here. Bit of an unusual video for this channel because this is going to be an unboxing. I don't normally do unboxings, so this is going to be an interesting setup. The reason why I'm doing this is because this has the potential to be a steampunk prop. Okay. Set the side. Alright. This is the CampSnap CS-8. It is a video camera, a camcorder, and it's basically based on the form factor for a Super 8 movie camera from the 1960s to mid-1970s, which is basically the heyday of Super 8 film. This is the camera that in those days you would be using to make home movies. So let's get this out a bit more. So let's see, have a look and see what we've got here. Okay, we have a quick start guide, and this is the charging cord for it, and also the transfer cord, because this will connect with your home computer. It is USB-C, both ends. And the camera itself, and here we go. Oh, now that is a really nice looking camera. Now, one of the reasons why I got this is because this has a potential to become an Atompunk prop. Atompunk being the steampunk equivalent of what you have in the 1950s, 1960s, thereabouts, basically before the moon landings. This is a camera that most people will be familiar with. It's also the inheritor of the 8mm movie cameras that would have existed in the 1940s and 1950s, and so it has a potential to be known as a dieselpunk prop as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at this quick start guide here, and when we come back I'm going to talk a bit about the controls that you will see on this camera. Right, so I've had a chance to look at the brief instructions as well as CampSnap's website, so we can go over a few of the features that are part of the camera. So let's start from the front. You'll notice that there is no lens cover, there's no lens cap, so you're probably going to need a dust cloth when you're deploying this camera. Also, here is the trigger. When you press the camera in, you start recording, you hold it, you keep recording, you let go, you're not recording. That basically mimics what a Super 8 film camera does. Now, I'm not entirely certain whether this hole is the microphone or not, but we'll get to the other location later on. If we look on this side, there's basically 4 items to note. This is the on-off switch. Simple enough. This basically lets you decide your aspect ratio, and there are 4 settings. You have 9:16, which is what you use for TikTok. You have 1:1, which is basically the old aspect ratio for shooting Super 8 film. You have 16:9, which is the standard high definition or standard YouTube video. And then you have 4:3, which is basically the old aspect ratio for television shooting. Up here, you have filters. You have a standard, which basically is no filter at all. You have 3 other settings, which basically allow you to shoot footage that looks old or retro. And you also have a black and white setting. And this dial here is for measuring the percentage of memory left. This camera contains a micro SD card, which is 4 gigabytes, or roughly speaking, it's about a half hour's worth of filming. Looking over here, what you have is the viewfinder, and if I basically tilt it like this, you'll notice that the curvature of the cup around the viewfinder gives the impression that this camera is meant to be used with the right eye. The other so that can be a problem if you're left-handed and are used to operating with your left hand. It can also be an issue for people who are using prescription eyeglasses because of the fact that this sticks out a lot more than this. On this side, this dial here measures battery percentage. So if I turn this on, which is basically simply a switch here, you'll have seen that the battery has shot up because I gave this a charge. This here basically activates the zoom. T stands for telephoto. W stands for wide. So you zoom in, you zoom out. These three buttons here basically allows you to set the camera's time and date. And the instructions are what are included in the package. Finally, we basically look at the bottom. We have a mounting for a tripod. And here we have the USB port. This takes USB-C, and it's for both charging and for data transfer. Also, you have 2 screws. This is the actual location of the micro SD card. You have to remove these screws in order to take the panel out and replace the card if so necessary. As I said, this camera comes with 4 gigs of memory installed via the card. You can replace that card with a micro SD up to 128 gigs, which will give you 6 hours worth of recording. And there's also a little clip here for attaching a wrist strap or other camera strap. Now, I think what I'll do next is when we have a daylight out, we'll take the camera out and we'll try to shoot with it and see how that works. This is Mooney's Bay Park. I have this in standard mode, aspect ratio 16:9. That is the YouTube standard. I will say that the viewfinder is adequate, though not spectacular. If I try this is the digital zoom. Okay, that's the telephoto, and we'll go back to the widescreen. I am going to say that it is theoretically possible to do selfies with this, but because there is no view screen, I have no idea how my head is being framed. I'm also aware that the microphone on this is what I would consider below average for cameras. So there's a little bit of wind, but I'm not expecting the best quality. Again, this is another angle of me using this camera. This is not what I would call ideal circumstances, but you do get an idea of how this works. And I will admit, I do like the form function of this. This actually tells people around me that I am shooting a movie. I mean, normally with mirrorless cameras or replacement lens cameras, people can't tell if you are shooting a still or if you're shooting a video. And they will usually guess that you're shooting a still, and they'll freeze up, which is not really ideal if you are shooting a video, because you really want motion. So, in terms of form factor, then I'd say that I would like this a lot. I'm now shooting 10 seconds using the Vintage 2 filter. Not quite sure if this is going to work well. I am now shooting with the second Vintage filter. I suspect that again it's going to be degrading, but there are people who might want to do retro with this filter on. And if you're basically planning on making a artifact type movie, this could be viable. Now, this is what they call their analog mode, and this is the one that is supposed to look like an old-fashioned movie with somewhat film damage. And that's to be expected, because Super 8 film was never of the highest quality. It was bound to sustain some sort of damage in the development process and in the storage process. So this, again, could make for an interesting artifact. Finally, I have the black and white filter on. Now, I admit it's a little crazy to think of black and white without the other analog filter, because that would be really good. But This is something that probably could be added with a mid-range video editor. So, my opinion on the CS-8. I like steampunk props that are functional rather than just decorative, and the CS-8 is definitely functional. It's the form factor that's the real selling point. I mean, if you want to create a steampunk-themed short film, especially if you're cosplaying a movie director like George Méliès, then the CS-8 will fit in with your vibe much better than a smartphone or a contemporary camera. I can certainly see people making leather or wood casings for this thing to make it look a bit more Victorian, but I've seen early photographs of film cameras, and I think people in Victorian garb can get away with using it just as is, and certainly Dieselpunk and Atompunks will have no problem. Now, outside of steampunk, can this be a primary camera for making YouTube content? No, not really. Fact is, most current smartphones and a lot of point-and-shoots have better camera sensors, better sound capabilities, and more features like a view screen to create videos with better visual and audio quality. So, if you're more concerned with the results of your efforts than the form factor you have while working, you've got no real reason to buy this camera. Now, this isn't to say that this is a complete waste of money for people posting on YouTube. Me, I'm planning on taking the CS-8 to TeslaCon. Now, I'm expecting there'll be opportunities to get slice-of-life footage, short bits that'll play well on TikTok or Facebook, and this camera will work just fine for that sort of thing. So, if you're interested in looking at the CS-8, I will put a link to CampSnap's website in the video description. Let me say this, CampSnap is not sponsoring me. I bought this with my own money, so I am free to give an honest opinion. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on my next video.